Welcome back, everybody. How's everybody doing? Everybody having a wonderful day, evening, afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Life is moving along. The awakening is taking place. Lots going on in the world. What we're going to do today is we're going to do a little zodiac read, another zodiac read. If for the people that have watched the previous videos, we did a zodiac read with mystery cards. Well, we're going to do another one today, but we're going to do it around activating life purpose. Now, and this is not only for people that are freshly waking up to this notion or wanting to activate their life purpose, but also to help people that feel that their life purpose has already been activated. Okay, so, and this can be a helpful tool to sort of register where you're at, especially with the circumstances in the world and our personal worlds, right? And these little tidbits or pieces of guidance can help us on our path. One of the awesome things about tarot is that it has within it many layers of understanding. And one of them is definitely astrology, we've talked about, right? The other one is numerology, okay? And so astrology and numerology work really well together. In fact, which one begat the other? We're not really, they come from each other in a sense, right? The other thing that's a big part of tarot and the tarot symbology is alchemy. Now, and not necessarily like the alchemy people sort of maybe understand what it is in the sense of like taking physical lead and turning it to gold. No, this is the spiritual alchemy or the metaphysical alchemy of turning the distorted egoic state or the unbalanced egoic state, which is represented by lead of our lower nature, and transforming it into our spiritual nature, or the spiritual gold, right? Now, tarot is a big part of that. It explains that or expresses that. That's what we're helping people unlock, hopefully. Yes, we're going to do accessing and activating and guidance around life purpose. That's a lot of cards to draw, isn't it? Now, when I do personal readings, and when I did personal readings in the past, many people, this is one of the main things that they ask, is what is my life purpose, or help me access. Now, astrology, having someone interpret your natal chart and looking into astrology yourself and sort of understanding in the same way that tarot is also a study, right? It can help you sort of understand that. It shows us where our life direction can be. Now, astrology is a blueprint. Let's look at it like that. It still plugs into the idea, the notion, the actuality of free will, that we have free will to choose, that we have the free will to decide our own fate in a sense, in a way, in a manner. We're talking about the finite nature of us, meaning on a finite level, material level, not on an infinite level, which is more in the realm of divinity. So what we're going to do is, so people at home, you can actually plug into this kind of easily, especially around your birthday. Everybody knows where their birthday is. And for most of us, we know what the sun sign or our astrological sign associated with our birthday. That's your sun. That's where the sun sits in your natal chart. That's what we're going to use. That's one thing that you can use to reference what we're talking about here. So if you are like, say, a Scorpio or a Pisces, when I come to that area of the chart, that is sort of references you, right? Now, this can also be taken as a full read, right, for a person. The other thing too, for people that understand their astrology, like different rulers within their chart might be more significant, like their ascendant or the position of the moon. Let's use that, right? It's kind of a free-for-all in a way, but for simplicity's sake, for people at home, they can use this with their sun sign and their birthday, right? Now, and partly the reason why I like doing this is because it does help us learn astrology a bit better and numerology. which this idea of turning our unbalanced egoic state, our leaden material state, into unison with the higher self and accessing the spiritual gold of the spiritual life. That is personal development, spiritual development. That is, alchemy got it from astrology. So the first sign on this side of the chart here is Aries. And Aries is ruled by the planet Mars. Okay. Now I put this middle card here because it helps us do this relay. I call it the relay. But it helps us understand the dynamic between us and the world, in a sense, is what it really represents. But within astrology, there's the dual opposites. And so it can help us understand where we're at, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to read both of the signs. So like what opposes Aries is Libra. Okay. Libra is ruled by Venus. Venus and Aries are opposites. Or Venus and Mars. Aries and Libra are opposites, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to read both, right? So first, we're going to read the Aries sign. Because the opposite will help you understand what you're kind of going through, right? So like Aries being sort of the directive sign, being very individualistic, very fiery, very creative, very forward, very decisive. Versus Libra, which is very diplomatic, can be very calming, it's communicative, right? It has a lot to do with more like the groups, right? And so that can help you kind of understand. And what's in between it is this reversed swords, Six of Swords, reverse Six of Swords, which in a lot of ways, like with the theme of all the readings and the theme of what's going on right now, it's like moving into new waters for people. Right? We're moving into this new sort of area, right? Or it's being sort of presented to us, but yet in some ways we're not, it's almost like people are feeling held back, right? Or it's not being fully presented, or it's not fully clear where the new waters, the new shift is. We're talking about life purpose, right? So it's like activating that sense of calling or life purpose in life, right? And so that's what's being sort of presented with this card, the Six of Swords. It's a card of moving into less turbulent waters, actually clear waters, and it's actually a really positive sign. But sixes represent like bringing things into balance, right? So with the Aries right now, the Aries energy, I guess let's call it, right? Mars energy, Aries energy. It's like the pettiness of the everyday, which is what the reversed page of Swords can actually represent. It's the pettiness of the everyday. This is Swords communication is sort of getting in the way. It's like clutter and needing to clear some of the clutter. Pettiness might be the part of it. Allowing, taking things for personally when maybe it's best not to. That kind of thing, right? But it's also like clearing away that clutter, clearing away the mental chatter, clearing away negative self-thinking, and also clearing away the judgment, self-judgment, and the judgment that's projected onto other people. So, if you're thinking negatively about a person, that's also another thing that has to stop, right? So it's like thinking about negative circumstances, running yourself down, that kind of thing, right? That's what needs to be done. This is also kind of like social media breaks, or get no gossip. Be wary of gossip and any kind of like toxic communication like that. Positive self-talk. Engage a sense of positive self-talk with this, right? This will help you activate, right? Remember what I was saying. This is about activation. Whereas the Libras, so this is an individual card. So it's like these people have to kind of like right now have to be kind of on their own a little bit. Whereas the Libra energy is sort of like finding the other groups of people to be with. newer groups that they didn't expect, right? And it's almost like the Libra energy with the reverse 3 of Pentacles has to sort of step outside of its like physical comfort zone, like going into new areas where you might prevent yourself from doing it, because it's really about meeting new people. The people that you really have been wanting to connect with, they're there, right? So it's like, and that's part of it. It's like with the Aries energy, they have to kind of stand alone in order to and sort out some of their own sort of issues with self. Then they start to connect with the group, because the group is something that they desire. These new formations, these new understandings, new things that people are doing, right? Whereas the Libra has to kind of get set with being able to go out into new groups. They almost have to drop some of their old friendship patterns, old community, some of these people that they're connecting with, so that they can recognize their uniqueness, their individuality within group setting, right? But it's for Libras, the Libra energy, there's it's going to be coming a very like an abundant time very soon, I guess, in some ways, right? So it has a lot to do with interacting with the right people and not getting caught up in the wrong sort of life situations with people. Okay, so moving on to Taurus and Scorpio. So Taurus is an earth sign. Taurus is ruled by Venus, okay? And it's a fixed sign. So if you remember my last reading, we talked about the fixed signs and everything, right? But this is like, it provides structure on an earth plane. Whereas Scorpio is the fixed water sign. And this one is co-ruled by Mars and Pluto, okay? Now, Venus we talked about, I didn't actually describe Venus too well, but Venus on an air level is kind of where Libra sits. And so that's more like around communications and like thoughts and how that connects us with the world. But like the physical aspect of Venus, like the appreciation of the physical world, of beauty, of food, of art. And then Scorpio, fixed sign, right? And that was the Venus sort of aspect, right? Well, with Mars, with the watery Mars energy, and Pluto, it's very transformative. It has a lot to do with the transformation of self, but this is through partnership. Scorpio also represents everything kind of underneath stuff, how everything works underneath. The occult, right? The underworkings. So with the Taurus energy, it's really like a moment of letting go right now. With the Fool card, this is a big lesson for fixed signs, where letting go is part of emotion of like letting go is a difficult lesson sometimes, right? But it's like also having no fear. So like a lot of fears are being let go right now with Taurian energy and with people, right? And so that's what's going to help access the life purpose. See, now that's kind of what this is getting at. This isn't going to tell you exactly like what your life purpose is. This is going to help you access a sense of it, or help you perceive it a little bit better, or even move along your path with people that have activated it, okay? So letting go, this is a big part of it. This is a big lesson. And taking a leap. Some of these people, I guess, have to take a leap in courage, right? Some of them do, and it's just, and then like with the Scorpio energy, it's kind of like, don't give up, keep going, right? Maybe there has been challenges in relationships with Scorpion energies, but like in a lot of ways, it's worth pursuing, it's worth working itself out, right? But you have to kind of, instead of like trying to avoid things, you have to kind of be able to face things a little bit better. But it's more like you're being challenged right now to sort of implement some of your own ideas, or like a new sort of life direction, right? So that's a big part of it, right? And it's like partnerships, right? So, and that's like a big kind of theme right now too. It's like relationships, on big levels are shifting, changing. And it's not just intimate relationships. We're talking like also the relationship we have with the world and other people, right? Okay, so moving on to Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. And this is the mutable air sign. right? And so Mercury is the sign that represents the link between, or the planet that represents the link between the material and the spiritual world. Very communicative, very, intellect oriented, right? Mercury represents like everything of the mind. Represents contracts, it represents agreements. Opposed to Sagittarius, which is the mutable fire sign, which is ruled by Jupiter, which is very expansive. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, of abundance, of the higher mind. Okay, and so that's what Sagittarius represents. So like with Gemini, the energies that they're kind of going through is like really releasing, like the devil represents releasing self-imposed constraints, things that we've put upon ourselves, right? In some ways, right? Or self-liberation, right? That's kind of the lesson of the devil card, is that we get trapped in order to like give us something to free ourselves from, right? And so, but there are elements. I mean, the mental activity right now is kind of crazy. Like people are buzzing all over the world. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, but there's also a lot of garbage, man. People are like completely hooked to things that aren't serving them, that actually entrap and ensnare them, right? And so this is actually one of those things with Gemini. It's like always like usually our worst enemy is ourselves, right? And so that's kind of what this is, that Geminian energy. It's like, stop pursuing things that are no good for you. Stop, you have to prevent yourself from doing some of these things that you feel trapped by. That you come full circle to realize like, man, I did this to myself. Like what I was saying about this Six of Swords too, it's like moving into new waters. So it's like, don't let the dark cloud of your thoughts around, you're not able to free yourself from what I'm talking about. You have to kind of promote the idea in the arena of thought that you can do it, and build the confidence and build like the affirmation. Geminian energy, when it sort of resonates with affirmations and things, works really well. Mantras and stuff, right? Because it is of the mind. These guys also have to kind of stop repeating, I guess, right now. That's what's making them feel held back. Versus the Sagittarian energy, which is right now, Sagittarian energy is like, whoa, everything's opening up. It's time to wide open. But with the Four of Pentacles, and this guy here, he's like holding on for dear life, right? Like and in some of the images, actually, he's so wound up and kind of guarding his material world that he's kind of forgetting, like some of the images show his shoelaces being not tied correctly. Kind of represents like he's not attending to the everyday world or some of the smaller things in life. And that's kind of what the Sagittarian energy has to remind themselves. It's like, yes, it's time to expand. It's time to sort of go out there, but you also have to kind of maintain the smaller aspects of life, the details, the manual, laborious details of life that we have to maintain. And then what we've got here is the cardinal signs of water and earth. So Cancer, which is ruled by the moon, and Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, the 4th house and the 10th house. Okay. So interestingly enough, and I'm not really talking about too much about houses, because we're talking more about the personal aspects of, right, what's going to help us access our life purpose, and what's going to help us in that process of moving towards what we feel is our calling, or if we have activated our calling, right? And so these 4 points are very prominent in the astrology chart, right? And like, okay, so water sign, Cancer, ruled by the moon. And it's funny, we've got a cup and a coin in the place where the cup and the coin should be sitting, right? So this is a good thing. This is a good energy. Right now, the emotion and our material direction is aligned to move into these new waters. Like, so you got to realize, like, so much is sort of being presented to us right now. That's actually what this card represents. It's like, it may not seem like it for some people, but there is an opening, okay? And so like the cup, actually cancers might get sort of a surprise. This actually represents, these are sometimes messages. The pages can be messages, but the Page of Cups and the Page of Pentacles can be like a message that you're going to receive. So yeah, it's like good news, right? These guys, in spite of like the Cancer energy, in spite of hearing bad news, getting a lot of bad news, have kind of remained pretty on the up and up, actually. And that's they're going to get a sign of in the near future of how, like, you know, like by maintaining a positive attitude rather than letting it slip, that's actually what produces better results in life. But it's almost like you're going to get some accolades or something that you don't expect, or out of nowhere. Like, I mean, especially if people don't feel, if they feel underappreciated or they're not being sort of recognized in some way, that's what it's going to come to you, right? It's also a time energetically to clear away emotional baggage from the past for the Cancer energies, right? That's what's going to help you access. So it's going to help you listen to the intuitive voice a little bit better in that calling. And Capricorn energy, like, holy cow, man, the world is kind of like opening up to you right now. Saturn is another one. Saturn represents constriction, whereas Jupiter is expansion, but both represent like the higher aspects of mind, just different aspects of it, right? Whereas the Cancer energy represents our emotional field. Moon represents like that part of us that is connected with the subconscious and that intuitive knowing, and connects us to the greater part of the cosmos and all of those great things, right? And like that voice that we're trying to get at, right? But like the Capricorns are, yeah, it's a playful energy with the Page of Pentacles, but it's also, I guess, also a practical thing, right? They're kind of like, yeah, there is a practicality to it. This is kind of like also a good sign, like there's going to be return on investment, maybe job offers upping, things upping, levels upping, right? In some ways, right? But yet, this is also a sign of going out into the world, go towards those things that you're peering into your world, going, wow, that would be interesting. Should I go check this out? Should I go and do this? Yeah, it's time. It's time to go do this, right? That's, yeah, interesting. In spite of what is being told to us in the world. Because when like, you see this guy here holding the coin, holding the pentacle, that's, in a sense, it's like the world, right? He's holding up the world in a globe, or looking into what could the possibilities be. Okay, so, and Capricorn represents direction, right? So next, what we have is Leo, which is the fixed fire sign, and Aquarius, which is the fixed air sign. Leo represents like the personal will, individual will in some ways. It's an individual card, right? Versus the group, which is Aquarius, right? And Aquarius represents knowledge and how we connect in groups and obtain knowledge. Leo's ruled by the sun. Aquarius is co-ruled by Saturn and Uranus. Okay, and so Uranus is the planet of upheaval and innovation, right? And that's kind of like where Aquarius gets some of, or it's also part of Aquarius, right? It represents technology and kind of anything that's innovative, right? And so like with, and seeing like the sun represents like what motivates us, what generates our life force, those kind of ideas, right? And so this is like, it's so funny. It's like, for Leos right now, it's time to take stock of all your skills, all your gifts, everything that you've learned to life to date, and realize that some of the boxes have been checked, or you got to take that inventory in order to sort of like move forward with something, okay? That's like a big part of it. You need to take your experiences and your skills that you've already developed and move it into this new form. There's been a reason for everything up to this point. That's part of that lesson, right? End of a cycle with tens. 10, this is the 10 of wands, right? Tens represent the completion of one cycle and the beginning of a new cycle. So you've had to go through a series of events and learnings in order to get to this next cycle. And see, and that's another thing about like activating that sense of calling and life purpose. It is cyclical. It does take a motion of moving up towards something and coming down from it, like, or an influx and an outflux, in breath, out breath, that kind of thing. Okay, versus this idea of like the Four of Swords, right, is like taking a resting. So the Aquarians have been like really busy. They need to take that like retreat, that respite, right? And in fact, in some ways, like what it's saying to the Leo energy is like, don't worry so much about your groups or families, or just be concerned right now with your own personal journey, but like, because that is going to flip, right? Right now, you got to be more concerned with what's going on with you. In the near future, that's going to switch over, right? But yet you need that time period, right? With the Aquarian energy right now, they're sort of like, they need to reassess all the little things that they've been doing, right? You got to almost kind of like stick with one thing or narrow it down a little bit better, right? This card like is a mini, like the Four of Swords is like a mini transformation, going through the mini aspect of it, right? And finding sort of new ways of thinking out some of the same issues that kind of go with your life purpose, with being the person that you are. Because see, and like part of that is realizing like we need some of those challenges, those problems, in order to move us forward. See, this also kind of sort of gets us sort of thinking on levels of that this isn't the only lifetime, that there are other lifetimes, that we develop a certain aspect of our spiritual selves in the physical form, and then carry on and move on and sometimes and move into other bodies, sometimes not though, right? And that's part of it, right? And so, and it sort of leads to the notion that it's never too late. There's always time. There's always more to learn. You can always learn this stuff. This is part of it, right? Okay, and so like here we are to the end with the Pisces and Virgo. So Pisces represents the mutable water signs, which is like also like spiritual release, spiritual growth is what it represents, but it also is ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. And then Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and this is a mutable earth sign, okay? And this represents like a growth on a material plane, our health, and what we need to release materially, right? And so like with the Virgos right now, yeah, Virgo energy like has to sort of, this is almost like being like depressed about life situation, or just like can't lift the cup up, can't move forward with this, right? It's like a disappointment in some ways. And so it's like overcoming the emotional overlay, being burdened with emotion or not knowing how to deal with emotion, right? Because it's like sometimes with earth signs, like they are sensitive to the emotional field, but sometimes they don't want to deal with emotions, right? Virgos sometimes are pretty good, sometimes not though, right? And with this card, it's more about accessing like your heart chakra, opening up the heart chakra. This card to me represents the heart chakra in some ways, or the cups do. And so that's kind of what's needed. It's like listen to your heart more. Pay attention to what's in your heart. And then like with the Eight of Swords, like even this card, like she's bound and she's kind of like standing in a gateway of swords, right? But she doesn't really see that she's on that gateway. In fact, she's blindfolded, but the blindfold is so loosely bound that she could actually easily lift it and move through. It's an emotional, like the mud field is kind of what's preventing her, or that's part of the symbol in a sense, that the emotional content is muddying the mind, right? So it's like back to the same thing. It's like getting clear with life direction by like first clearing the emotional field, attending to some of the emotions that are there, but yet the opportunity to move forward is right there. You just have to like move forward. You just have to take that one step, right? And that's like a big lesson with this card. 8 also has a lot to do with harmony, creating a harmony, as above, so below. Harmonious effect, right? And like that's kind of maybe what some of the Piscean energy is seeking right now, is also like harmony. And that can be there, but it rests upon how you really think about it. Swords, like the mind, how you think can be subjective. Just because, you know, I think one thing and another person thinks another thing, it doesn't mean one is correct and the other isn't. It's rarely like that, actually. And so that's kind of what this is referring to. But yet it's there, it's being presented. So both of these cards kind of represent like a stifled motion. And so both Virgo and Pisces right now have the opportunity to move forward with something, but they're preventing themselves from doing it. With the Pisceans, it has a lot to do with the thought process and how they're thinking about it. And for the Virgoians, it's the energy of feeling, right? And then with this like 6 of Swords, right, it's like moving into the new waters. So we all kind of have this opportunity to sort of make the shifts. Now, you got to realize, like, I'm coming from the perspective, it doesn't matter what the life situation is or where a person is at. Everything has to sort of be taken by an interpretation, but yet this is also there to help all of us move forward in some manner or form. Small steps are big steps a lot of the time. It doesn't matter, big or small, a step is a step. And that step is a step in the right direction. And that's what we're looking for, right? Kind of what this is also talking about with the swords is like the mental energies and the energies like on that plane are going to be very turbulent. And so we have to be prepared for that, right? So some of this stuff can help us move through that, because actually what it is us dealing with that turbulence in a proper way is what helps smooth it out. It's actually what helps bring access to the new waters. Okay, I think that's it for everybody. I think that's enough for today. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, share, like, and I hope to see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.